Crowe Ransom. Crowe Ransom can be considered the father of New Criticism. He coined the term New Criticism with the publication of his book The New Criticism, which was published in 1941. He was a celebrated American poet, essayist, editor, literary scholar, and an outstanding theoretician. As a teacher, he was great. Leading critics like Alan Tate and Clint Brooks were his students at Vanderbilt University. He was the founder of Kenyan Review. He received the National Book Award and Bollingen Prize in 1950. He was also a leading member of Fugitive Group. I have already made a video about Fugitive Group, which is in my short video list. Go and check, links in the description below. So, Ransom, his works known for its formal precision, his use of traditional forms such as the beauty of nature, the human experiences, and the role of the artist in society, self-alienation, and many more. His first collection of poetry, Poems About God, which was published in 1919, and then Chills and Favor, Two Gentlemen in Bond, and his most influential book, The New Criticism, The World's Body, and Grace After Mate. His essay, Criticism Inc., where he discusses how criticism should be. It's an important document in the history of literary criticism, which he published in The World's Body. Now, why Ransom named it Criticism Inc.? He says that Inc., its full form, incorporated. For example, in India, we have the word LTD, that is limited, behind our company's name. Similarly, in America, the word Inc., that is incorporated, is used behind the name of their company. Such words are used to refer to a professional field. According to J.C.RANSOM, criticism is also a professional field, and being a critic requires certain skills. He says that the critic needs qualifications that three different people have: the artist, the philosopher, and the university teacher of English. But he also said that every profession has some disadvantage. The artist evaluation is intuitive, he cannot explain it to others. The philosopher, who knows the function of the fine arts, but his theory is too general, and he cannot appreciate the technical effects. He has no intimate knowledge of particular works of art. And the professors should take charge of critical activity, but they are not critical enough. They avoid making literary judgment. He presents a list of 6 items which he considers to be not literary criticism. Personal registration. Describing the effect of the work of art on the reader cannot be considered literary criticism. Criticism should be concerned with describing the nature of the object rather than its effects on the subject. Ransom says judging by effects denies the autonomy of the work. A text is something which exists for its own sake. We should not ascribe qualities to the object which actually apply to the subjectivity, effect, moving, exciting, entertaining, beautiful, etc. Synopsis and paraphrase. He says that the true content of a work cannot be isolated from it. Discussing the synopsis of a novel or the prose paraphrases of a poem does not amount to literary criticism. Historical studies. Understanding the general literary background, the author's biography or autobiographical evidence, bibliographical items, and knowledge of the literary originals can all be useful aids to literary criticism, but they do not constitute it. Linguistic studies. Criticism is based on proper understanding of the text, but linguistic studies alone cannot produce a critic. Moral studies. Ransom says that moral content should not be taken as the whole content of the work. Criticism is concerned with the whole content. Any other special studies, discussion of Milton's geography or Shakespeare's understanding of the law do not constitute literary criticism. It can be considered literary criticism only when the critic disciplines can analyze how Milton's or Shakespeare's knowledge of geography or law has become part of his poetry. According to Ransom, criticism should be scientific or systematic. He stated a criticism should shift from historical scholarship to aesthetic appreciation and understanding. In 1941, Ransom published an essay wanted an ontological essay, where he divides poetry into 3 groups: physical poetry, platonic poetry, and metaphysical poetry. In physical poetry, what he says that whereas poets are concerned with material elements but not with ideas, in physical poetry, things are represented in language, where language are very scientific and realistic. Platonic poetry. Platonic poetry deals with ideas, not with objects. Ransom says romantic and Victorian poetry are Platonic, which is too idealistic and it destroys images. Ransom was against both these types of poetry. And the third form of poetry that emerges from these two poetic quality is metaphysical poetry. Ransom favors this poetry because in this poetry there is a combination of the heat of logic and feeling and the combination of emotion and mind. According to Ransom, there should be an integration of texture and structure that makes the poem an ontological entity. So I hope this video helped a little bit, and if you want to hear from me again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before.